Hello, everyone. Coming to you from both the East Coast and the West Coast. My name is Bernie Suarez, re-examining the destruction of the 3 World Trade Center skyscrapers on 9/11/2001 and calling for a new investigation. This is the AE911Truth podcast. The first of its kind, and it would not be possible if it were not for my fellow host here, and his name is Andy Steele. Andy, tell us about this, and this is an exciting day for both of us.
Well, thanks, Bernie, and I want to thank the listeners for tuning into this, giving us your ears. You know, there's a wide variety of different theories about what happened on September 11th. AE911Truth doesn't deal in theories, it deals in science. All right. It doesn't accuse anyone of anything. It doesn't speculate on what might have happened. It just looks at the scientific facts and how our government's official explanation for how the Twin Towers and World Trade Center 7 fell doesn't match up to them. Mm-hmm. Your average person can't look at Building 7 collapse, you know, the way it did so swiftly and it goes neatly to the ground, and they still can't say that fire caused that to happen. Right? I've talked to a lot of people, wide range of different people with different backgrounds, and nearly all of them always agree, after they just see some of the evidence presented by AE911Truth and watch a video of Building 7 falling, that the improbable, you know, implosion of those buildings on 9/11 needs a new investigation. And people can debate about politics and motive until the cows come home, but science speaks for itself.
Indeed, it does. The science does speak for itself. I agree with that 100%. And I think that I was going over some things here. I was watching. I won't say the video. Somebody was handing me a video the other day, and one part of the video, the gentleman's talking about axioms and things that are understood universally, accepted as truth. And I think that it's fair to say that when it comes to 9/11 truth and 9/11 science, it is grounded solidly on the accepted truth of the science, and that is reproducible. That is definitely one of the points that I always point to. And like you, I decided to sign that petition a couple of years ago, and I became a volunteer with Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth probably about a year ago, and I've enjoyed my time here working with amazing people. And you know, we can talk forever, you know, about all the different things out there, the conspiracies, and we talk about state crimes against humanity and all these events. But the wonderful thing about Architects and Engineers is, you know, we have one event that is probably, arguably, the crime of the century, or, you know, arguably the crime of history. You know, we're talking about a lot of people's lives were changed. All of our lives were changed, and it's very difficult to point to one event that has had such a powerful impact on everyone's lives, more than this one event. So, and this organization focuses on the science, the reproducible science, and in keeping with the scientific method, and that's where I come from. I'm a kind of guy. We talked a little bit about this the other day. You know, we were chatting. You know, people think, you know, for some of this stuff you need a degree in engineering, and you have to be an expert and have years of graduate training to understand what happened on that day. And I'm from the school of thought of David Chandler, Professor Chandler, and reminding people that some of these universal laws of gravity and Newton's laws, and we get into all these laws of thermodynamics, are high school level science, and it is easy. And 9/11 Truth is grounded on a rather very simple science and reproducibility of the evidence that is in front of us. And for that reason, that's what brought about Architects and Engineers. And we've got a lot of stuff going on at Architects and Engineers.
Yeah, and we're going to be going over a lot of that later on in the podcast. But, and I just want to comment on what you said, talking about how you don't need an engineering background. And why all of us can be drawn into this. Something I always say is that if you watch Building 7 collapse and you have two eyes and common sense, you're going to know that fire didn't bring that building down, no matter how many times they want to try to fit that into that box.
Right.
And that's why we all have to unite under this banner for AE911Truth, because most people, like I said, who are intellectually honest will admit that, and that's how we're going to get the new investigation.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And you know, I want to add, you know, that AE911Truth is an organization that is made possible by volunteers, you know, and there are men and women in this organization that they have their regular jobs, and most of them do, and you know, they have their own lives, and everybody's busy. Everyone's got to make a living, but the men and women in this organization take out of their own time to make this possible. The organization, I believe I don't know if this is official or unofficial number, but I do believe the amount of signatures of architects and engineers, professional architects and engineers that have signed a petition, it's right at, I believe it is right at 1,700. So I want to highlight that right now. And there's quite a few thousands, right, of others that have signed it, as well as myself and yourself. And I think it's fair to say that we've all done it. I think this is an organization of people that are compelled to want to make a difference in this life. And wow, that's exciting, you know. And I want to say this right now, Andy. Now, I know, you know, this idea for the podcast, you know, I want the audience to know, was brought up by Andy, and Andy's got a lot of good ideas. And I want to thank you for raising this idea of creating this podcast to get the word out to more people with the use of the internet. And I mean, gosh, we have like Twitter and Facebook, and nowadays everyone's got some sort of access to the internet. And we hope that with this idea that you've brought up, that we're implementing here with this first podcast, that we are going to be able to do that and get the word out about AE911Truth.org and a lot more. So tell us more. You want to tell us about this idea, what brought it about, and kind of, you know, what provoked this idea of the podcast, and where do you see this going? You know, you want to tell us about that now?
I'd be happy to. I came up with this idea for the podcast because, as the way I see it, is one of the greatest, or maybe two of the greatest obstacles to breaking through the wall of, you know, that surrounds this massive elephant in the room that we have as a country, is lack of knowledge and also activist isolation. Now, like I said before, your average rational person, when they look at the evidence presented by AE911Truth, will at least agree that a new investigation into the collapse of these three buildings in New York, you know, is warranted. However, there's a problem with information about this topic in this country, especially if it runs through the filter of the media. And because there's a lot of emotion attached to it and psychological barriers people put up. Now, if this were some mundane occurrence, you know, that we were talking about, no doubt reason would have won the day long ago. But 9/11 was no mundane event, as we all know. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of cases, people may know the information AE911Truth puts out, but they may feel like they're alone, or at least in their communities they feel like they're alone, and they may not feel that they're part of this worldwide community, like those of us who volunteer for AE911Truth do. Right. And in other cases, there's just people who may not know the information that AE911Truth puts out because, well, they just don't know it. Right. So there's still a lot of people out there who have no idea that there were 3, not 2, buildings that fell in New York that day. And there's lots of people who've never seen a video of Building 7 falling who may not know that even this controversy even exists. Well, with this podcast, we're changing that. And my aim in proposing this idea is to erase the myth that people who doubt the government's official explanation for the Twin Towers and the Building 7's collapsing, to get rid of this myth that they're isolated and to reach more of those people who haven't been exposed to this information before. And AE911Truth is an organization of a lot of people. And, of course, you know, we got architects and engineers, but like you said, there's a lot of people behind the scenes like me and you who lend their individual talents to this mission in a lot of ways, and who our organization couldn't do half the things it does without them. So many times people want to do something, but they're hesitant because they feel alone, or they don't know how to help out in the more effective way. But AE911Truth has a number of volunteer opportunities we'll be talking about, and we want you to know about it and sign up for it, as well as recruit others. and we have a number of projects taking place. We hope to have all of the project leaders come on eventually and give interviews, so you can know them and know how you can support the organization and help out.
Right. That's a lot of stuff, and no, we do appreciate that. I want to, I agree with you. You talked about how the opposition wants to isolate the truth and those that understand the truth of 9/11, and I want to agree with that. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I talk to people all the time. I talked to someone the other day at work, and and as you pointed out, so many people don't even know about Building 7. And it's just amazing how successful the media censorship and the establishment, you talk about the Board of Education and the media and all the stuff, how successful they've been at censoring the truth of 9/11, and you point that out very well. And you talk about isolating somebody, and when you're able to isolate somebody and make them feel alone, they're not going to want to, or the hope is for them that this person's not going to want to be active on that belief and that understanding. So that contains the truth, doesn't it? I mean, obviously it's planned that way. And if a podcast like this, surely we believe that it will hopefully act as a tool to motivate people and to remind them that they're not alone. And we talk about volunteering with architects and engineers, and I think we can both attest to that. It makes a big difference when you can talk to people who can understand what you're telling them and can agree on these basic concepts of, in this case, the science of 9/11, and leading us to understand what happened on that day. So the establishment surely doesn't want people to get together on these ideas and even socialize or meet up, whether physically meet up or talk on the phone and conferences and kind of encourage each other. So there's no doubt about it. That seems to be at one of the center, I guess I want to say, for lack of a better word, plans or strategies against the truth movement to kind of keep it separated. Podcast for AE911Truth.org. We will have more information on this podcast on that website, which is the home site for architects and engineers for 9/11Truth, founded by Richard Gage. And in terms of this podcast, we want to encourage our listeners. If you're listening to this podcast, tell a friend about it. Go ahead and put this on your Facebook page if you have that, and go ahead and get this out to all the organizations that you're volunteering with and your friends, and go ahead and put it on Twitter and just get the word out, and help us out in this effort that we're trying to do. We just want to get more 9/11 awareness out there. It's been more than 10 years now, and we are demanding an investigation, a true investigation. And every person listening to the show and that supports us is making a difference, and you're going to make this possible. Help us get the word out.
Absolutely, and I want to add too, Bernie. The great thing about a podcast is that that there's no reading involved, and I'm a big fan of that because AE911Truth.org. We publish a newsletter, we publish our action alerts, but podcasts are great because they're easy on the eyes, and you can just sit back and listen, or you can upload it to your MP3 player and listen to it while you're driving or while you're working. And unlike reading, unless you're reading really loudly, if you have people around you, they may catch some of what you're listening to, and in turn you're going to have AE911Truth catch their ear too. So, you can promote it that way. You can we're going to be uploading it to TalkShoe, and they let you create your own widget if you want to grab the code for that. You can also go catch us on YouTube, and you can mirror it at your own YouTube channel as well and just spread it around. Social media is great for that purpose.
Exactly, and that's what what I thought was so brilliant. And again, I want to thank you, Andy, for bringing up this idea, and we're putting it into action, and we'll see how it does. We just I think it's just a win-win situation here with the internet and the technology that we have available to us nowadays. You're so right. These podcasts, I've listened to a bunch of podcasts myself. I'm probably more a video person, but these, people can put these on their websites and put any other videos to it or whatever. As you pointed out, they're interchangeable form of media to get out to so many avenues, and we look forward to that. And I guess we're going to talk about the podcast and all that, and I want to say kind of a slight transition. I want to talk a little bit about architects and engineers and the founder, Richard Gage. I want to do a couple of things. I want to read to our audience just a little word about the founder and a little bit about architects and engineers. And we're talking about the mission statement to orient our listeners who are not very familiar with who architects and engineers is. Obviously, we mentioned the website AE911Truth.org. Go ahead and go there and check us out. And I want to say a word on Richard Gage, Andy, and so people have an idea. Richard Gage, obviously, and I'm just speaking for myself. I'm amazed at the energy he has to do what he's doing. And Richard, is about as humble a person as you're going to meet out there. And I just want to give some attention to Richard. And again, none of this is pre-planned or anything, but I want to read a couple of things about Richard so our audience can appreciate a little bit about his background. Richard, he is AIA certified in the San Francisco area as an architect, and he is a member of the American Institute of Architects, and he has been an architect for over 23 years and has worked on most types of building construction, including numerous fireproof steel frame buildings. Most recently, the record shows, he has worked on the construction documents for a $400 million mixed-use urban project with a 1.2 million square foot of retail. He's also worked on a parking structure and a 320,000 square foot mid-rise office space altogether about 1,200 tons of steel framing. So just a little reading a little information on Richard's background, and he became interested in 911Truth and researching all of this after hearing a radio program where I guess David Ray Griffin was issuing out his conclusions on the 9/11 investigation back in 2006. So just a little background on Richard, where he comes from, and what got him into the movement. Of course, we'll hope to get some words out of Richard. He is pretty busy, and we're going to be talking about why he's so busy, right, in a few minutes. Anything you want to add about Richard Gage or your experience?
Oh, Richard's a real nice guy and easy to work with. And if you get on if you get into architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, you're going to see that this is a community of people, all of us. We listen to each other's ideas, and it's a place where your ideas can really take shape. If you've got one, if you've always wanted to see somebody like Richard or the organization try something, it will be heard. And a lot of times, you come up with a good proposal, it will be implemented. So,
Right.
there's a world of brilliant people out there, like I said, with different talents. We need you to come to the table and be heard.
Right, and I think that this organization, the strength of it, is often reflected in its leader, and in a movement that is marked for not having leaders, a movement where I think the paradigm is that every one of us is a leader, and that echoes throughout the group. He's a silent leader, and I think that that reflects in the success of the organization, as everyone in the organization is a leader. So
Exactly.
so I did want to mention that, Richard. And for those of you that are new to hearing about architects and engineers, I think the Architect and Richard and the Architects and Engineers did put out in the past is the maker of Blueprint for Truth, which we won't get all into right now. This is some of the other projects that have been put out, as well as Solving the Mystery, of Building 7. I know there was a project there with Ed Asner narrating there, and now we're looking at Experts Speak Out, 9/11 Explosive Evidence. Experts Speak Out. Again, we're talking about Richard Gage and AE911Truth.org and the work that has been done and what is coming out. And but now what we have is 9/11 Explosive Evidence. Experts Speak Out. And this is the new groundbreaking documentary from AE911Truth. And we had the preliminary release last year, and this new final premiere release. It is a edited down, and I understand it's been worked on for some 6 months or so, and improved, and it is a must-watch documentary, and will be the subject of a 25-city tour by Richard Gage, and starting May 21st, which is next week and coming up soon. This tour begins, and we want to talk a little bit about that. This new release, Experts Speak Out. Have you got a chance to watch any of it, Andy, or should I get into it a little?
Well, I've seen the preliminary. I haven't seen the new version that they're going to be putting out after all of the editing. But from what I've seen so far, I mean, this is a movie that a lot of people do need to see, because it gets it is what the title promises. It's experts speaking out, and it's not just experts in the fields of engineering and architecture, but there's also talk from people who are experts in the human mind, psychiatry, the psychological barriers that people put up. We talked about this before, when hearing this information. So anybody, that investigates this and wants the new investigation needs to get out and see this movie and get to a premiere too, to help support the cause, if there's one near you.
Absolutely, and I got to say, I watched the preliminary version as you did, and I got to tell you, this is groundbreaking. I want to tell our audience here, I think what got me out of that, what I liked about, when you're listening to one expert after another, and they're talking about this stuff from different angles and just different perspectives, all bringing it back to the science. That is so powerful. And just watching this, and as you pointed it out, I like how they incorporate the psychological experts and the psychiatrists talking about paradigm shifts and how difficult it is for the general public, for the masses, to accept this information. Amazing, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think that's kind of like for people like us who are in the trenches, kind of the foot soldiers, for lack of a better word, in this fight. That's probably the most pertinent to us in terms of reaching out to people and overcoming those barriers. So this is a must see for anybody who does any street action, who does tries to talk at local libraries, whatever kind of action you do. You need to see this, and it'll make you more well-rounded on this subject, and you'll have a more in your arsenal when you go out into the world and spread this information.
Absolutely, it's pretty neat to be able to win some arguments out there. So those some of the members of We Are Change and who've been out there with me. I'm kind of sometimes I have a little too much fun when I'm out there, but I enjoy spreading the word out there and outreaching to the general public about 9/11. My attitude has always been that, hey, this is science, this is truth. I have a clear understanding of this, and so do a lot of other people like yourself, and a lot of smart people out there, a lot of professors and just a lot of the engineers and a lot of these scholars that are out there have made it easy for us to understand this thing, and I love it. I mean, I have a good time with it. I encourage people. I myself, I do these little block samples and demonstrations of Newton's law at the street level, and I love seeing the look on people's faces when they really realize this is really that easy.
Well, exactly, and what Richard has succeeded in doing is boiling a lot of it down to some very basic common sense arguments that your average person can grasp.
Right.
That and that really carries a long way out in the street, out in the activism world.
Yeah, out there in the real world. I know what you mean. So I think if we can impart and kind of disseminate this excitement about the easy science and just the fact that the science is being put out there at a national level, hopefully, we can motivate more of you listeners to come out and join us. Be a part of Architects and Engineers. Check us out. See what's going on. It's not about promoting any one organization. It's about getting the truth out there. And I think, if people will just hear this and just remember that you are the change. If you're listening to this podcast, you are the truth, and you are the change that's going to change this world. And it starts wherever you want it to start. This is exciting, and it's time to get the word out. More. We can't give up. Right? We can't give in to the establishment. We talked earlier about isolating people and. There's nothing worse that there's probably nothing that they hate more than knowing that, we have a campaign that's exciting people and it's happening nationwide. And hopefully, we're going to be talking a lot about this tour, this ESO tour, the Experts Speak Out Tour, 25-city tour. We're going to be talking a lot about it because it's going to go on until the end of June, I understand. And it starts in San Diego, comes up to L.A., San Francisco, and kind of cuts across the whole country, city to city, and ends, I do believe it ends in Florida somewhere, either Miami or Fort Lauderdale or something like that. I'll have to double check on that. But, this is exciting.
Well, it is, and if we've got, in pursuing this, a lot of us have had to become the media. And so if we have any writers out there, or budding writers, or people who write for their local papers, come out to a local showing, or go out to the nearest city near you, view it, videotape it, put it up on YouTube, put it out, put it in your local newspaper, do a review of it, and then the people will pick up the newspaper and know about this issue and know about this movie and want to see it for themselves.
Absolutely, and I want to throw in here, I'm looking at my notes, and it's going to, I believe it ends on the 30th in Orlando, Florida, and there's also a viewing scheduled for the 28th in Tampa, Florida. But, hey, this stuff is dynamic. I know they're adding locations, as many as possible, and trying to lock these locations in is a lot of logistics, isn't it? Now I know we talked a little bit about this, and we don't have any guests today, and there's so much work being put to this tour. and hopefully we'll be able to, talk to some of these heroes and people that are making it happen behind the scenes.
Exactly. And also, too, if you want to see where the closest screening is going to be to you, we have a website. It's www.expertsspeakout.eventbrite.com. Now, I'm going to spell that for you, too, because that's a lot to take in. It's experts, EXPERTSSPEAKOUT EVENTBRITE.com. So that's how you type it in, and it's got a whole listing, and you can also purchase tickets at this site too.
Exactly. You've got that website there, or I'm pulling that up. We want people, listeners, depending on which city it is. We're going to be having. It's going to be a small registration fee, up to about $10 in most of the cities, and in some of the cities, we're taking contributions and donations, and that's your chance to support this tour with Richard Gage and Architects and Engineers, getting the word out about Experts Speak Out. So. That's going to be a lot of stuff going on. I know, you're in New York. Here I am in L.A. I want to let our West Coast listeners know that, and so it's going to come to San Diego on the 21st. That's Monday, May 21st, and that's going to be at 6:30 p.m. at the Joyce Beers Center, and I'm sure that's going to be exciting, and that's going to lead to the next day, the 22nd. We're going to be with Ed Asner and Richard Gage, and we're going to set up a press conference at 7 p.m. in Beverly Hills, letting the Hollywood crowd have it. Huh? We're going to be here at it's going to be the Music Hall Theater, and that's 9036 Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, 90211. So I'm looking forward to that. I will be out there and supporting the team, and I don't know, maybe get a video or two about this event, and we'll see from there. It's going to go to Seattle after that on the 25th, and then we're going to be coming eventually out to you, Andy, in New York. Seems like the tour hits New York City on Wednesday, June 20th, so that'll be your chance to jump in.
Absolutely. Now, I'm in upstate New York, so I'm probably maybe closer to Buffalo, but if I don't feel like driving, then I'll head out to New York City.
Okay, so there you go. So and it's going to hit Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut. I'm looking at the schedule here on June 17th. And June 19th in Boston, Massachusetts, before going to New York on the 20th, and then passing through Washington, D.C. on June 22nd. So we'll have a lot more on this. I'm sure at this point this schedule may be subject to some minor changes, but that is what is on the schedule now. So overall, I think this is going to be a historic tour for no other reason. The topic at hand, I mean, 9/11 and 9/11 Truth. This is to many people, obviously the crime of the century. As we said earlier, a lot of lives have been changed. We've gotten into so many wars, and this stuff goes on and on and on. And we're talking about, compromising the Constitution and TSA and all this stuff going on. And, at the heart and soul of this is this one event. And if we can get this word out, this is the way to make a change. All right. So we talked about Experts Speak Out and Architects and Engineers, Richard Gage, and all the efforts being put out. And we want to talk about action and volunteering. So our listeners, you go to AE911Truth.org. I want to remind our listeners, anyone can volunteer and be a part of the solution. There's a volunteer button on the left-hand side of that homepage, a gray volunteer button there. And you go ahead and click on that, and you will go into a form, and you just kind of read along there. There's some information, you can contact us, and someone will get back to you, and you can volunteer that way. And we want to also talk about taking action, and there's a button right there in the home page at the very top. There's some orange buttons in the center top there. It says Take Action, and what do we want to do? We want our listeners who want to help us out and want to volunteer and take action, go ahead and click on that button. And Andy, there's a lot of information on that page. You want to share some of that with the audience?
Well, sure. And if you go to the Take Action page after pushing the button, like you said, one of the first things we ask our volunteers to do is to sign the petition. To join in the numbers of architects and engineers and other signatories, people in other professions like myself who are calling for this new investigation. And then that way it's on the record, and you can talk about yourself as much or as little as you want on that petition. And you can make a donation too if you want. But if you look on the page and you scroll down, you're going to see that it says volunteer on AE911Truth team, and there's a list of different volunteer groups that you can sign up for. I mean, the first one is action groups, where you actually can go out and do work out in the community, out in the world to promote AE. We have a college outreach team. We have a congressional outreach team where you can talk to congressmen. I was a member of that team. Public access team. I mean, there's a number of different homes for any type of person that wants to be a part of this effort.
Right, and there's no end to this. This thing goes on and on. Verification team, public access team, and presenting teams. We go out to colleges, as you mentioned. Now, a word, we're talking about signing petitions and all that, and people, say, I don't want to sign this, or I want to remind our audience, this petition, it's one person at a time, and together we're strong. And I signed a petition. You had brought up how you signed the petition earlier. So did I, and I signed it because, they say a journey of 1,000 miles is made one step at a time. If people think in small steps, and every signature counts when we're talking about justice and we're talking about the voice of the people. So I was compelled to sign that petition because I feel that I want to know that I've done the most I can to bring about justice, and if for no other reason, for the victims of the family victims and those that died that day, if no other reason. So I just wanted to make that comment about the petition. In terms of I think you said very well pointed out that there is no shortage of action groups at AE911Truth, and we want to encourage our listeners to get involved. This is an organization, again, amazing organization with so many opportunities to make a difference. And well, thanks to this idea, with the podcast, Andy, and all the things going on, I think it's really exciting times for AE911Truth.
Absolutely, and I want to thank the listeners for turning on this podcast. And what I hope we've managed to impress on you is the realization that the momentum is on our side, but there's a lot more to be done, and that you can do it. I mean, many times we get in our heads that we're not leaders or that our individual actions don't amount to much, but in reality, that's not true, and I've seen it firsthand. One person doing something can create ripples in the pond, and they reach out far. And the ideas you plant in people's minds today may not sprout in front of you, but that doesn't mean they never will.
Exactly.
I do a little bit every day, and I know that goes a long way. And so imagine what you could do. All right, and all of you who are out there who are awake, to this information, to AE911Truth's information and its mission, you all have talents and personalities and energy that are needed in this, this fight for a real investigation, and all of you equally have something to contribute. Yeah. Of all the issues facing our country right now, there are many. Trust me, there is no issue bigger than this. This is the biggest struggle of our time, and we're all standing up for our country and presenting this information and spreading the scientific truth about what happened to the Twin Towers and Building 7 on 9/11. So by joining this mission, you're not only a part of history, you're on the right side of it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I like the example you gave me the other day talking about Star Wars and placing the bomb in the right place and to get at the agenda and finding that weakest link. There's no doubt about it when you're talking about science and destructions of buildings that I think by and large, members of AE, we all feel that that is the weakest link in this progress that we're in this process of pursuing the truth of that day. There's no doubt. You talk about heroes and people that are active and making a difference, and you talked about all these teams. I think one of the things that we hope to accomplish, I think you'll agree, is if we can in the future highlight some of these heroes and some of these individuals that have really made a big difference, not only in their own lives and the lives of the people around them, and their volunteering with architects and engineers, and the impact they've made in their community and the world around them to get this message out there. These individuals are too many to count, and hopefully we'll be able to bring in, maybe interview some of these individuals and maybe just talk a little bit about them one by one and highlight some of the things they've done so that our audience can appreciate that indeed it doesn't take much. Any one person, everyone is a hero, everyone is a leader in this movement. That's the wonderful thing about this truth, this 9/11 Truth movement.
Exactly, and also just to explain, because people wonder what we're talking about with Star Wars. I always use the Star Wars analogy when I explain why I put so much of my efforts into AE911Truth, because I feel, if you've seen that movie where Luke, fires the laser at the one spot and the whole Death Star just blows up. That's kind of what I feel like Building 7 is, in a way. There's a lot of issues that people, take on, even outside of 9/11, but have come up as a result of 9/11. But what I say is that, Building 7 is so obvious, and the evidence is so, there's so much evidence that this was a controlled demolition that brought this building down, that, that this is where our focus needs to be, because once you prove that, once that becomes the well-known fact in the minds of Americans, then everything else that was based on 9/11 just kind of falls down around it. So Building 7 is the Death Star weak spot. So I just want to give some clarification on that analogy.
Well, we do appreciate that. No doubt about it. That's exactly what we're talking about. A one-time hit and bring the house of cards down. The deception of this establishment in the media, and we talk about 9/11 censorship and on and on. So hopefully this podcast will cut into that, and we'll get people fired up and excited about being a part of the solution, Andy. And I'm looking forward to additional programs and shows and get these podcasts out to the general public.
Absolutely, and check us out on YouTube. Go to AE911Truth.org, and not only for this podcast, but for all the great information there, the volunteer opportunities, and you're the one who's going to make the difference. Exactly,
and well, I think we're about almost wrapped on this show. Are we wrapped here? This is our first podcast. We want to thank our audience, our listeners, and what else can we say, Andy? All the great people that are out there, people that are listening to us now, I'm sure are good people who are also passionate about the truth, or they wouldn't be listening to this show. So we want to encourage them to get the word out, and I don't know, anything else we want to throw out there?
Well, just, a lot of thanks to Richard Gage and, Wayne Cost and Rena Patty especially for, she's one of our great volunteers for helping, promote this idea within the group and helping us get started.
Absolutely.
So many thanks to you, Rena. And we have many more great episodes to come. Just keep an eye out.
All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this podcast, the AE911Truth podcast, our first podcast. And until next time, this is Bernie Suarez, and I'm here with Andy Steele, and we're going to bring it to you, and we look forward to a lot of great things.